Alright guys, so first video into EL Arkansas. I'm going to do this one on the difference between max ordinate and bullet drop. Okay, so when it comes to long range shooting and you're dialing in your scuff or whatever, or you may have seen a few of those ballistic tables out there, and you may have put in some information and calculate up and say you use like JVM ballistics is one that I use a lot, and you put your bullet information in there, your bullet weight and profile, and then the ballistic coefficient, the velocity you're running, the altitude you're at, the humidity, the temperature, and all that stuff, and you hit calculate. You set your 0 to 100 yards, and then it basically tells you your drop from 100 to 200 to 300 to 400 to, all the way out, So recently, I was watching a video, a little clip of a guy shooting 600 yards with his 6.5 Creedmoor, and they had the spotting scope set up with the camera in a way that you could actually watch the bullet trace where it just kind of arced into the target, and which is really cool to watch. But there's a guy in the comments that pointed out that the bullet drop for that round at 600 yards is going to be like 6.5 feet, and the bullet trace did not match that amount of drop. The arc on it was not high enough above the target, and this and that. And so he's basically arguing that it wasn't actually a 600-yard shot that was on that clip. Now, yeah, I wasn't the one shooting it, but I just was like, okay, so let's break this down. There's a big difference between the max ordinate, which is actually the height of the bullet above the target in its trajectory and its flight path, and the adjusted drop value. Okay, so let me try to draw this out for you so we get an idea of what's going on. Okay, so because I'm, a terrible artist or whatever, we're going to go ahead and do this. So say this is our 600 yards, right? We've got our target up here. This is our target on the target stand. And we got this guy over here with his rifle on a bench, and here's the end of the barrel and whatnot. We're going to kind of angle it up for the purposes that we're trying to convey here. Alright. So he's saying that because of the vertical adjustment, there's 6 feet that he's got to aim above this target. So say that's right here. So that's 6.5 feet that we're aiming above the target, right? So our trajectory, our line of departure from the barrel is going to be at this angle. And this is not to scale, obviously, but so our line of departure for the barrel to the target, sorry, I'm like way off there from you guys. So here's our target, our flat ground, our 600 yards, and then 6.5 feet above the target is that trajectory, right? Now, when it comes to shooting, your bullet does not follow this straight path to 6.5 feet above the target. It actually it's a parabolic curve. So somewhere right around in here, it really starts deviating off course and actually starts coming back down and then to the target. So actually it's really probably closer to about there if you really wanted to look at it. Now, it's pretty known with artillery applications that your maximum ordinate, which is the maximum height the bullet is going to reach, max ord, is both about 2/3 of the way to the target, or about 60% to target. Sorry. And it also is about 1/3, or about 30% or 33% of your vertical correction. So in this instance, the bullet, the maximum height of that bullet is really only about 2 feet above the target. It's not, it never reaches 6.5 feet above the target. It really only gets about 2 feet above the target from there to 600 yards. The whole idea that it's 6.5 feet above is because of the bullet drop. Or, because this is an arc, you have to fire at this angle to get it to arc into the target. So theoretically and virtually, you have to aim here to be able to hit here. Okay, so you're shooting 6.5 feet above the target, but the bullet doesn't fly in a straight line. It has a parabolic arc to it. So at about somewhere around 60% of the way to the target, it's going to reach its maximum ordinate, or its maximum height in its trajectory. And that is also going to be about 30 to 35% of the vertical correction. So it's only going to be about 2 feet, or maybe a little over 2 feet above the target, and about 60% of the way to the target. And that's just how it works. To say that, oh, well, it's dropping 6 feet, it's really not actually dropping 6 feet. It's dropping 2 feet, but it's dropping 6 feet off the line of departure, is what the whole deal is there. So the guy's right. Yeah, of course, when you do the math, it's 6.5 foot a drop at 600 yards, which one MOA at 600 yards is 6 inches. So 6.5 feet is, let's see, 13 minutes of angle. I think if I did that right, it'd be about 13 minutes of drop there at 600 yards. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to go over that your max ordinate, the maximum height of the bullet, and the actual physical drop of the bullet is not nearly as high or as much as your vertical correction, because your ballistic calculator, your ballistic software is going to say, oh, well, you need to come up 13 minutes of angle, give or take, to reach 6.5 feet above the target, because 1 minute of angle at 600 yards, it's 6 inches. So we're going to have to come up 6 feet. So 6 inches will go into 6 feet 12 times. So is that right? Or maybe more than that. It may be double that. Maybe 24 times. I don't know. So anyways, yeah, I think 10 times would be 60 inches. Would be 10 minutes of angle would be 60 inches, which would be 5 feet. So 6.5 feet would be, about 12 minutes, 13 minutes of angle. So I was right, about 13 minutes of drop there. So I'm trying to do all this math in my head. I'm not really thought this out a whole lot, but yeah. So that guy's argument is kind of wrong. It's right, but it's also wrong. Is that, when you're looking through a spotting scope and trying to visualize and see this bullet trace, no, it's never going to reach this high above the target, 6 feet actually above the target before it drops to the target. It's going to reach about 2 feet above the target and drop to the target. So it's not going to really look like you're having to aim that much higher above the target, but because you're having to get this this line of departure, this angle of fire here has to be this high above the target for that bullet to be able to arc and hit the target. It looks like it's got way more drop than it does. And so realistically, physically, the bullet drop is not that much. It's not 6.5 feet. It's more about 2.25 feet or so, give or take. So that's just a short, quick lesson in the difference between max ordinate and vertical drop correction. Thanks for watching. This has been EL Arkansas.